And so the further you get up the chain from the union to sergeants, lieutenants, undersheriff and sheriff, that, or the disparity between those positions continued to be scrunched. And so there was conversations to put a 10% COLA in the sheriff's budget for the upcoming fiscal year to deal with the undersheriff and sheriff compression. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's spot on. The issue, as Jessica described, is in negotiation. So the law enforcement union is unique to most of the other unions in that it is a statutorily strike prohibited union. So if we don't reach an agreement, in other words, we reach an impasse, then it goes to mediation. If mediation fails, then it goes to a mandated arbitration process. And the arbitrator makes a all or nothing decision. So he's gonna, he or she can't pick and choose pieces of proposals from each of the parties. It's either all this proposal or all that, all the union's proposal or all the county's proposal. And the arbitrator looks at, has a set of statutory criteria that they look at, but the criteria is weighted the most heavily in their decision is looking at comparators. So looking at counties of similar size and determining whether or not our offer is reasonable in terms of what other entities are paying for those same positions and salaries. And the risk the county has in not trying to get close to those comparators is that the union will oftentimes throw a lot of other stuff into their proposal so that there is an incentive for us to reach some level of agreement, because if we lose in arbitration, we don't just lose on the wage side, there's usually a lot of management issues as well that we're generally not in favor of either. So we go back and forth with the unions. We try to pare down their proposal as much as possible. I think we did a good job of getting to a fair agreement for both parties, and it is a 3%, 3%, and 3% over 3 years, and that began at the beginning of the last fiscal year. Now there's other incentives that are rolled into that contract. There's longevity pay, there's educational pay, so on and so forth. And the issue that we have is that if we don't deal with what we call compression, in other words, for the non-union, the management folks, if we don't compensate them proportionally in the same amount, it disincentivizes anybody from wanting to be a sergeant or a lieutenant or a corporal or a captain, because they can make more money, especially if they're have a lot of years in, as a senior road deputy or a senior corrections deputy. So we deal with that compression all the way up until we get to the undersheriff, and we can't do it with the undersheriff because then the undersheriff is going to make more than the sheriff, and we can't do that due to the statutory reasons that Jessica outlined earlier, and we can't increase the sheriff's pay because that is the job of the compensation committee. So we would like for the undersheriff to be 10% above the lieutenants, and the sheriff to be 10% above the undersheriff. And that is the recommendation we have.
And what would that mean as far as an increase in the salary?